Good evening. Let me start by saying thank you to all of you for braving the very heavy rains for Pune standards and still managing to spend some time today evening here. My name is Advait, Kurlekar. My colleague here is HRD Network. Both of us represent a management consulting company called Upohan Management Consultants. And we've been doing this session or event called Between the Lines for a few years now. As always, there are always new faces. Some of them are new but old faces who've come after a long time. So welcome back and welcome to people who are attending this session for the first time. Let me explain what the format is, what it is normally and what it is today. So the whole concept of Between the Lines is that first and foremost, it is a monthly program, which means each month we identify a book that we believe is a good book to read. More often than not, it is a recently published book like today's, or it could be an old book but a good read. And for many of you who have been attending our sessions, Eklavya presents a fantastic summary of that book for all of us to sort of go through, which means without reading the book, you know what the book talks about. If you like the book, like the summary, then you can buy the book from here. That part of the program is not sponsored by us. If you still like the summary but you find, I know what the book is, I don't need to buy the book, fair enough, not an issue. Excuse me. So, every book obviously has learnings, every book has insights, and therefore depending on what the book is, what the topic is, what the learnings are and what the insights are, we invite people from the industry and I moderate a panel discussion on the topic. So that has been the format largely, and we've been doing this for now 7 years now. Today's program is 90th program that we are doing. Of late, we've been lucky in two counts. Sometimes we've been lucky enough to have the authors themselves present in the room. Like I think last time, where we did a book on 50 dilemmas of entrepreneurs, and Vikrant Vartak, who's the author of the program, author of the book, was here, and thankfully he's here today as well. So when that happens, sometimes we don't do a full summary, we just do a quick summary, and then we have a discussion. Today is slightly different. Today's book is a book by a very famous ad man, I call him B𝚛𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗 family, but he was kind enough to sort of give us some time, what should I say, late evening his time in the US, and we have done a video interview with him about his book. So we're going to play that video for him. But that does not mean Eklavya doesn't get his chance to speak and talk to us about the book. So that will happen as well. And then I'll come back again, formally introduce our very esteemed panelists sitting here, and then we'll start with the discussion. So over to you, Eklavya.
Thank you. So my name is Eklavya Malhotra, and I am more than just my name. I have a personal brand. Unfortunately, Starbucks does not even manage to get the name right, forget about the personal brand. So according to them, I'm Equala. And I asked Advait the other day, what is my personal brand, after we both had read the book and the interview was conducted. He very smartly advised me to get a personality first and then talk about a personal brand. But that, incidentally, is also the theme of the book. So what B𝚛𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚐 has propounded in this particular book, in a very beautiful manner, a light, chatty read, as I was telling somebody a few minutes earlier, how would you describe the book? It's a very chatty book. There's a lot of dialogue in the book. You don't normally read books which have so much of conversationals, like narratives that are going through the book. This particular book is set in IIM Calcutta, and Ambi, not the B𝚛𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗𝚗 character, it's not based on him. But if you read the book and if you have read or heard the man speak in public, then chances are that it's 99% Ambi Parmeshwaram only. So this Ambi in the book is attending his alum reunion meet at IIM Calcutta, which also happens to be Ambi Parmeshwaram's B school. And on the last day of the alum meet, he's taking a walk around the campus with his friend, and both of them get down to discussing about the what, why, and how of branding, first of all, and then personal branding. His friend Shekhar is typically hard-nosed and is not really keen on such fuddy-duddy ideas like personal branding, and immediately dismisses all this as niceties that professionals do not need to engage or dabble in. But Ambi gently tries to cajole him into at least understanding what a personal brand is all about and how it need not be at loggerheads or crossroads with your own corporate brand or identity within the organization. And then, as the night goes on, they meet two more of their friends, and then the four of them basically continue the conversation. And then later on, towards the end of the book, they're joined by a fifth friend as well. So these 4 or 5 characters basically dissect personal branding, and no spoilers, they manage to convince Shekhar about the virtues of building your own personal brand. Now the best part about the book is when, in bold letters, Ambi has written that competence is not a prerequisite for building a personal brand. That made me feel really good about myself. But then he goes on to qualify further that if you don't have the competence and still manage to build a personal brand, it might be like a house of cards and may not sustain for a very long time. But what he does go to great pains to underline and underscore throughout the book is that don't equate a personal brand with just being active on a social media platform or, putting forth your opinions in the forms of articles, blogs, videos, or unsolicited TikTok advice. That alone is not what a personal brand is all about. It's, according to what I understood from the book, it's about really having 3 things in place, or 3 things that need to come together for you to claim that yes, my personal brand is alive and kicking. The first thing is to be knowledgeable about something. The second is to have an opinion or a point of view on that subject. And the third is to be able to deliver it with some element of personality. Now the first one, if you really think about it, most people in this room and outside, most working professionals at least, are knowledgeable about a fair number of things, about a great deal of things. The challenge lies in number 2, about having a point of view or having an opinion on it. That is something where most of us perhaps fall a bit short. And we tend to just look at, like what the mob is saying and then go with the popular opinion of the day. And that's the dicey part of it, which comes in the way of building a personal brand. And the lesser said about point number 3, the better it is. Because even if we are knowledgeable and we also have a fairly educated and sound opinion about something, very often we tend to deliver it in a manner which doesn't really endear us to most people. Because often with great knowledge comes great arrogance and pride. And that is something which will always be a stumbling block on your path to becoming a personal brand or being acknowledged as a personal brand by others. And that's what Ambi also states in the book, that if you're able to get these 3 things right, and in fact there's a 4x4 quadrant, there's a matrix which he's come up with, I would urge all of you to give it a read. It's freely available online, and he's written numerous articles on this 4x4 grid post the release of the book. It's a simple matrix which talks about how competence and knowledge comes together in terms of building a personal brand that lives on and is also meaningful to others. So that's the gist of the book, and it's a light read in terms of the number of pages. It's not very voluminous, it's just 160 pages. And one of the criticisms about the book, unfortunately in the press, is that it's 160 pages too long. That personal brand books apparently should be as short as TikTok videos or Instagram reels and YouTube shorts. So one of the things that a lot of people have been asking Ambi Parmeshwaran, as part of the media junket which he did at the time of launching this book late last year, was that how do you expect millennials to sit and read about this when they can just get this information off the net? And very aptly he says that this is again the problem of today's understanding of the world, that we equate a personal brand with having a social media presence and being an influencer, so to speak. And that's one of the biggest mistakes, or one of the cardinal sins of personal branding, where we temper it down and dilute it just to the, like a simple metric like the number of followers we have, or the number of videos that we've put out, or the number of articles that we've contributed, all of that does not equate to being a personal brand. In fact, there's a lot of content within the book that is solely dedicated in terms of how to use social media wisely. And that, I think, is something which all of us can benefit from. There are a lot of people that I'm sure we follow on different social media platforms who perhaps take it upon themselves to be the voice of reason and try to make it sound like, they are God's gift to mankind, as Advait always likes to put it. But you would not want to trust them with a yard pole, But the thing is that all of this in the name of personal branding has taken upon so many different manifestations that this whole thing of personal branding has now become a pejorative, and that's what Ambi has tried to clarify and bring back to a normal state through the course of the book. So to understand more about what the book is all about, the genesis of the book, and rather than me telling you about that, like Advait mentioned, we were quite fortunate enough that he agreed to do an interview with Advait, and we'll play a recording of that to give a little more context and insight into what went on behind the scenes and that led to the making of this book, All the World's a Stage. Thank you so much, and feel free to pick up your copy. I think Roland has got some copies over here. And we'll move on to the interview now.
So, good evening, Ambi, and first of all, many thanks for taking time out to sort of talk to us about your book. I know you in the US spending time with your family, but all the more reason to thank you personally for spreading 2 minutes for a in the lunch session.
No, I think Advait, I should thank you for picking up my book for discussion, and delighted to be able to participate. I wish I could have been there physically with all your attendees and your panel members when you have the discussion, but we have to settle for this Zoom call. So thanks to technology, we are able to do it without too much of a problem.
Yes.
Sitting in our respective homes, separated by several thousand miles.
Yes, thank you so much. So let me start with a very unique title about this book. When you thought of writing a book on personal branding, what's the story behind this title of All the World's a Stage?
Okay, so All the World's a Stage is a book I wrote, which got published I think October last year, published by Westland, and this is my 11th book, and it's a book on personal branding. Now you may, your guests may be wondering, how is this guy an expert on personal branding? Well, I'm not. I spent a large part of my career in marketing and in advertising, and I moved out of my full-time job in 2016. After that, I've been a brand advisor and a brand coach to large and small companies and startups. I also do teaching at SPJMR. I also write columns, and I also do executive coaching. So when COVID struck, I got a call from my alma mater in Madras saying that everyone is stuck at home and we want to start offering some Zoom sessions with people. So would you be interested in doing a 1 hour or 45-minute session on branding? So that was the first call I got. It was just within a few days of lockdown. So I said, look, it's a great idea. Why don't you do it more often? Do you have it planned every week, every 2 days, every 3 days? They said, yeah, we want to do more, and we called you first. So why don't you do 3 of them?
Okay.
On Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday evening, 5:30, we can do it. I said, okay, and I said I did one on branding, I did one on living the brand, which is on B2B branding and service branding, and the third session I did was on personal branding. I delivered a talk at some company and I had some material, so I could put it together quickly. And all this happened within a span of something like 7-8 days. What happened after that was, I got calls from people saying, look, non-IIT people, saying that, look, we attended your talk on personal branding, can you do it for us? So within a couple of months, I did 4 or 5 of those online sessions on personal branding. And then I realized probably there is a demand for people to know about personal branding a lot highly hyped up term. So I thought I should maybe write a book because it's anyway lockdown, everyone was sitting at home. So I was not traveling anywhere. And so I had the broad idea and I talked to my literary agent and who said, yeah, I think we got a publisher. But I said, I want to write it differently. I don't want it to be a typical Gyan book where chapter by chapter I analyze everything and I present everything with some case studies and all that. I said, I want to write it.
So from after you became a script writer in a way, the way your book has come out.
Almost, yeah. So I said, let me try a different approach, where, 5 friends meet for their, silver reunion in their alma mater and they start discussing various things. This is what happens, Advait. I mean, when you meet people at your reunion, you start discussing various topics. And one such topic is personal branding. So I created this cohort of 5 friends, one of them being a younger version of me, and the other was an entrepreneur, the third is a lady who's an HR head, and fourth is someone working in the mergers and acquisition space, and the fifth is a media veteran, someone who's a CEO.
So these are characters and not your actual kind of thing, or based on...
They're all fictional. Yeah, they're all fictional.
Okay.
And I thought I'll set it in a way that there will be some disbelievers and saying, look, what is branding all about? I don't think I need branding. What is personal branding? I don't think I need it. It's all basically hot air. So I over this period, the idea was these 5 friends meet at the reunion and they start talking about it. They're going walking around the campus and the conversation gets more and more heated. And through a heated conversation, all the various myths are kind of unraveled and explained by two people, one being me, the other being the lady who is in HR. We explain everything and then in the end, it all ends happily with all the doubts being cleared. So this was the idea, and this is the idea which came out into a book, and that's the germination of the book and how it started.
No, it's a lovely read at the end of the day. Even you've done it very differently, like this in a conversation.
Yeah.
My question is, why do you think personal branding is very important? Why is it becoming so important? Like you said, we're also surprised to see that kind of response to your lectures initially.
I think what has happened is that everyone thinks this personal branding is a new concept, that's come up now because of social media, etc. But in reality, the first article on personal branding was written by Tom Peters 25 years ago as a cover story in Fast Company magazine called Brand Called You. So the concept he said was, look, it's a competitive world out there for talent, right? But at the same time, the talent also faces competition. So if there are 2 people, both are equally competent, but if one person is able to project his brand better, manage his brand better, then he will end up doing better in career-wise or professionally also. As a management consultant or as an architect or as a lawyer or as a doctor, you will tend to do better. Obviously, if you have the competence, but along with the competence, if you have an ability to project your brand through personal branding tools and techniques, then you will do better. Now, you may say it's all because of social media. I don't think so. It has always been there, which is why in my book, the last chapter is actually dedicated to someone who I believe has built a great personal brand without even using the term personal brand, which is Mahatma Gandhi. Right? So, all of us, whether you're young, junior, senior in a company, entrepreneur, all of us can benefit from the classical tools of personal branding.
And are there any specific tools when one wants to sort of nurture their own personality?
Okay, so this is something which, I don't think it's there in the book. So, while discussing, discussing the book with Professor Janikram Murthy at SVJMR, he pointed out saying, look, you could be competent or not very competent. You could have very good personal branding skills, or you may not have very good personal branding skills. If, let us say, you are very competent, but you have no personal branding skills, what happens to you is that you become a workhorse. You will continue to get promoted at the right time, whatever, right? But suppose you are very competent, but you also are able to project your competence through personal branding, then you will definitely in career or in business do that much better. Now let's look at the case where you're not very competent. And if you're not very competent and you're not very good at personal branding, you will be a survivor, hiding somewhere in the organization, right? You're not projecting yourself, but you're also not doing a great job, so you're kind of hiding behind some shelf and therefore you don't get sacked or whatever. Suppose you're not very competent, but you start projecting yourself, then chances are you will get fired very quickly. Right? So there is a danger. But the flip side is that if you project yourself and you're not very competent, you get fired, hopefully you will realize that you're not very competent. And therefore you'll do something to become competent. Right? So he said, look, personal branding is important, but it comes after you develop a certain level of competence. Irrespective of the hierarchy, you could be a junior executive, you could be a CXO level executive, you could be an entrepreneur running a 1,000 crore company, you could be an entrepreneur running a 10 crore company. Right? First is competence. Once you have that competence, then you have to start able to project that competence without bragging, right?
Yeah.
And then you consciously build your personal brand.
But counterpoint to that is, if I don't, if you look at the pyramid kind of thing, bulk of the people will be bottom and middle of the pyramid. Bulk of the people won't be in a way competent or highly competent. And therefore, as you call them, survivors. Now, wouldn't personal branding be more important for this lot rather than somebody who is already competent and I'm saying relatively more?
Yeah, so this is again the debate, right? I mean, when I wrote I think an article in Economic Times somewhere, I presented this grid, and someone wrote saying, look, sometimes what happens is you may not be very competent, but if you have very good personal brand, then you will get feedback that you're not very competent, and hopefully you will discover an area where you're competent. A lot of so-called influencers on social media start off as something else, and then they change with feedback, and they change and become something else, and they become good at it, right? So that could also happen. I mean, chances are, if you're not very competent doing your job, if you project your personal brand a bit too much, you can get sacked, right?
So I guess people will see through you.
Yeah, people will see through. People, I don't know how to do a PowerPoint presentation. I'm giving yarn about, how to make great presentations. And someone will say, what are you talking about? You can't even put, pen to paper. Right? You're not going to give me yarn on presentation techniques when you don't even know what is, let's say, voice modulation or how to crack a joke or whatever, right? So you will get found out, right? But the flip to that found out is, if you are sensitive enough, then when you get found out, you will then try and correct yourself, and you will become better. The whole idea of ikigai, right? I mean, ikigai is about something you're good at, something you enjoy doing, something which people find value, and something people are willing to pay, right? So these 4 circles meet in that middle, and that's your ikigai. So all of us, if we try hard enough, we'll find our ikigai. But the point is, if you don't do any personal branding, you will not be able to get any feedback. And if you don't listen to any feedback, you will not be able to become better. So, but my thing is, I still am old fashioned. I would say you have to have competence before you have personal branding.
Okay. So the main don't is that if you're not competent, don't jump into personal branding very aggressively.
Yeah, find out what you can become. Find your ikigai. I remember delivering a talk at, I think Pune, and someone in the audience stood up and said, look, sir, you're talking about personal branding and building my personal brand. I am a nobody. So how do I build my personal brand? So my answer to him was, there's no one who's a nobody. You're a somebody.
Yeah.
You have to find your calling. What do you like to do? It could be painting watercolors, or it could be doing spreadsheets, or it could be doing presentations, or it could be painting the wall, whatever it is. Find out what it is.
Yeah.
And then project yourself, because no one is a nobody. All of us, the personal branding theory says that, like, whether you like it or not, everyone is a personal brand. And it's up to you to say, look, I will mold my brand this way. I will project my brand this way.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, your brand gets created without, any of involuntarily, right? It gets created involuntarily, and that may be helpful, that may be completely wrong.
It's like a rough diamond, depending on how you polish it.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. In fact, this little discussion happened in Pune International Lit Fest, which happened, I think, a few months ago.
Yeah.
So I was there, and this discussion happened in Pune, in fact.
Okay. Interesting. One last thing I want to talk about is, you very interestingly said that you can change your branding kind of thing. Tell us more about what do you exactly mean by changing your personal branding style or position?
Yeah, okay. So one of the, in the book I've talked about various elements of personal branding, and I brought in certain concepts which other books on personal branding don't talk about. For example, there is something called executive presence. How do you present yourself, right?
Yeah.
There is something called executive voice, which is how do you project yourself, how do you talk, how do you write, how do you do that?
Without shouting like yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So as far as executive presence is concerned, even the way you look, the way you dress matters, right? So when I started my career in advertising, and I was a young account executive, and my boss had a beard, so I also grew a beard. And the notion was having a beard makes you look a little wiser than your age. I was 24 years of age, so a beard made me look 30 or whatever, right? And then I moved from advertising. I joined a multinational company called Boots, which was in healthcare and pharmaceuticals. And I think the second day or third day in the office, I was in the washroom, and the MD, very proper, cool gentleman, more British than the British probably. We were there in the washroom, and I was washing my hand, and he looked at me and he said, Mr. Parmeshwaran, having a beard in advertising is okay, but you're now in a British pharmaceutical company. And he washed his hands and left the room, right? And I said, boss, ये तो गड़बड़ है. And next day I went and shaved off my beard. And then later when I told my boss, I came up to my boss. Boss was laughing. He said, what's wrong with you? You should have kept it there. I said, no, MD has noticed it means कहीं ना कहीं गड़बड़ हो सकता है. So I'm saying it's a small turn, right? I mean, I took a turn. So that's changing your executive presence. You can even change the way you communicate, right? I mean, I give feedback, for example, simple feedback on how do you write an email, right? And I have corrected my colleagues saying, look, why are you using capital letters in your email? It's like shouting. Right? You don't use that. That executive voice. What kind of voice do you have? And I talk to, and I coach executives, senior executives, and they're a little cagey. But I said, look, if you want to project yourself, you've got to go and give talks. And you've got to give talks at industry forums, And they say, no, I am not very comfortable. I said, you have to become comfortable. And the tip I give them, which is there in the book, and there are several such little tips in it. Say, look, you must be getting invitations from business schools or colleges. Go and give a talk there, right? The mere fact that you are a senior executive in a company, all the students already see you with respect. You can say anything you want, and they'll clap, right? And so develop courage to do that. And then once you do that a few times, then after that, doing the same thing in front of a more, let's say, mature audience will not be a problem. So things like that, you have to change. If you don't change, how will you grow? Right? So even personal branding, I believe that you can change your personal brand based on the feedback you get from people whom you trust. Right? Someone you trust gives you feedback that the way you talk sounds very insulting. or you use too many profanities when you talk, or you're not able to, your letters sound very rude, right? That's a feedback they're giving you, right? And that feedback you can use to change your personal brand.
So what these small things also matter in curating your personal brand.
Absolutely.
It's not just about just what you're projecting yourself and kind of thing. These small things in terms of the way you talk, the way you dress, the way you write emails, all these things matter.
Everything matters. Your personal brand is a net sum of all that. And I think Jeff Bezos said this. Your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And if people say, Advait is very erudite, he knows so much, and he's able to add a great amount of value to my business, that's your personal brand. Right? And they may also say, he always comes very well turned out, that adds to it, right? That adds to it. Or, they say, no, he's great, very intelligent, he adds a lot of value, but, he's very scruffy looking. I don't know, why can't he invest in buying? I mean, I do that. I mean, and I sometimes, one of the senior executives I'm coaching, I said, look, you can't wear this kind of a shirt. He said, what do you mean? I said, yeah, you're wearing some, orange, yellow, blue, green check shirt. I mean, you cannot wear this kind of a shirt. So then what should I wear? I said, stay simple. Wear a simple check shirt, or wear a simple light blue shirt, or a grey shirt, or a white shirt. You can't go wrong. Right? Again, I said, look, what kind of specs are you wearing? I'm not joking, these are actual interactions I've had. Okay. And so, the next month when I met him, he looked at me and said, Abhi, have you noticed my specs, my shirt? Yeah, I said, yeah, correct. Very well done. Right?
I hope those comments were not on my shirt and my specs.
It's fine, your specs is fine. I'm wearing this because I'm in the US, it's slightly chilly. So, otherwise I would have been, wearing my light blue shirt.
Okay, one final thing to wrap up. What's your advice in terms of, what are the first 3 things people should do? And when is the good time to start personally, your own journey towards personal?
One, I think it's never too early to start your personal branding journey. Even if you're a young executive, you can start it. If you're a young entrepreneur, you can start it. If you're a young architect, you can start it, right? I think the important thing is try and define what your personal brand, what you want it to be, right? So you may describe it in 3 or 4 words, competent, elegant, communicative, creative, humorous, whatever, right? What are those 4 or 5 words which will describe your personal brand? Then you get it checked by someone. Take feedback from someone, say, look, is my personal brand this or is it something else? Take that feedback, craft your personal brand, and then develop an executive voice and an executive presence to project it. I think the 5th step is social media. Now, and people say, no. I said, look, social media comes after all this. A lot of times you start posting things on social media without realizing how is it going to go. You have to have you have to have a social media presence today. Right? Definitely LinkedIn is a must, right? Again, the simplest thing I tell people, you don't have any time to go on social media. At least on LinkedIn, keep your profile up to date. Right? Keep your profile up to date. At least once a month, go and spend at least, let's say, half an hour on LinkedIn. Just updating your profile, replying to requests or whatever, right? I mean, you contacted me through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So I looked at my LinkedIn page probably once every 2-3 days, definitely. Right? But there are people who say, whose LinkedIn page is completely outdated. That he's talking to me and he's got, the job is something else. Right? I said, hello. He said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not updated. I said, how long does it take here? Update it, keep it up to date. You don't need to write,
There's some reference in books, somebody came back with for the last 9 months or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're not updated for 9 months and you're telling me I'm working for this job, and in your LinkedIn profile it says that I'm looking for a job.
Yeah, interesting. Great. I think this conversation again for both for us, but again, thank you so much for your time, for your insights into what went behind the book and what we need to move forward into.
Yeah, thank you, Advait. Thank you for inviting me. And my book is available both as a physical book. It's also available as an e-book. Kindle, and it's also available as audio in audio, visual. So it's available in all three versions, and I'd be very, very happy if some of your members pick up the book and read it and post a review if they find it of
I'm
use.
sure they will.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So it's actually longish kind of thing, but I think every word was worth it. Two things that he said gives me more confidence in sitting on this chair along with my esteemed panelists. He clearly mentioned nobody is nobody, everybody is somebody, and everybody is a personal brand. So that qualifies me to moderate the panel discussion. Let me now formally welcome our panelists. So first and foremost, please join your hands in welcoming Pallavi Patgaonkar. When we first thought of this topic, the first name that came to my mind was this, because her career has been advising, like Ambi mentioned about personal branding, advising people on how to develop personal brand. She's conducted a large number of workshops on this topic, and she does several kind of consulting work. She used to till now, and now she's of course CEO of Global Talent Lab. She joined that company a couple of months ago. So thank you, Pallavi, for taking time here. Next up, I don't know why he's there in the middle of the room. I think the applause you got is enough to introduce him. For those souls who don't know him, he is Aman Rajabali, currently President of National HRD Network Pune, also the founder and director of Kabir Profile Solutions. Last nearly 2 decades and more, he's been associated with NHRDN. And when I spoke to him about this, I told him that the reason why he has to be here is that irrespective of, even when he was on the executive committee, then he became vice president, and of course he is actually formally the president. For most of us HR folk in Pune, Aman was NHRDN and NHRDN Pune was Aman. So that's the personal brand that he has developed. We talked a lot about social media. One of the social medias that is prominent is Twitter. So please join me in welcoming Shilpa Godbole. Her daytime job is head of marketing in Apace, which is a sports apparel company, and she occasionally tweets about that as well. But otherwise, she is very well known and has a large number of followers and fans like me on Twitter, mainly because of her observational humor, as they call it. She's developed her own personal brand, as what's it called, as a what she says Maharashtrian eye. And on her episodes, I know her kids are here somewhere. And of course now, very recently, she's taken up that role as a supporter of an activist as well, and we'll talk about that as well. So welcome all the three of you. Thank you. So, Pallavi, if I can start with you. We heard a lot from Ambi in terms of what personal branding is all about. But you've been in this business for long, and like he said, although in a different note, that he's not an expert on personal brand, you are. What is your own definition of what personal brand or personal branding is all about?
Good evening. It's wonderful to be here today evening, and thank you so much for this. It's a subject which is very close to my heart. So yes, what personal branding means to me is about who you are. It is not about all these things matter. What you wear, what you do, everything matters. But finally, it boils down to who you are as a person. And that is your personal brand. So it's about your story, it's about your success, your failures, your core values, your life experiences, your likes, dislikes, everything comes together to make or form who you are, and I think that is most important for a personal brand, for an executive presence. The reason is that is unique to you. So even if you have a Siamese twin, that Siamese twin is not going to be in the same permutation combination that you are. That's how life has made you, and that's how who you are. And I think that's my definition of a personal brand. Over the years, there's nothing right and wrong about anything. There's, as you take it. But this is how I have realized over the last many years that finally it boils down to your uniqueness as a person. That's something we need to celebrate when we talk about personal brand.
So it's all about you and your unique
It's about
style.
you, and we all know, it's a very popular line which says that what people talk about you when you're not in the room. However, you have to decide what people talk about you when you're not in the room by developing and by knowing and being celebrating you as a person.
Lovely, lovely. Aman, if I may come to you. To the best of my understanding, you don't have a CMS twin. So, over the last 2 decades, how have you developed your own personal brand? Like I said, I was not joking when, for most of us, NHRDN Pune was Aman and Aman was HRDN Pune. How did this happen over a period of time? And don't say it's not that.
Okay, first of all, Adab, Namaskar, Sat Sri Akal, everybody. Thank you so much. बड़ा strategically stage बिठाया गया है. Beauties, brains and the beast. For me, this is a new term actually, and thanks to him. If you remember, a couple of years ago, before pandemic, you wanted to invite me for a session, and I asked him, मुझे क्यों बुलाओगे यार? मैं कौन हूँ? I don't have a big company. I'm not known. I'm not a CHRO. So he had mentioned कि आप खुद ही एक personal brand है. So that got me thinking. Anyway, so I would be very candid and couple of disclaimers also, because I will be talking about my journey, or journey being in the public domain. NHRD is a public organization, so obviously, बहुत कुछ अच्छा बोलूँगा और not so good
I
also.
think we should start with all due respect to all the past office bearers of NHRDN.
No, they have had a major role to play in what I have been. So yes. So I never had a conscious decision or conscious efforts to create a brand for myself. चलो एक किस्सा सुनाता हूँ. In 2000, NHRD restarted. Yeah, of course it's been there since 1989. बीच में गैप आ गया था, restarted क्योंकि मैं जुड़ गया officially. Otherwise I've been a member. So then, I will also like to clarify using this opportunity. In 2004, I had an intern. I had taken a lot of interns, trained them, and तो वो ज़माने में we used to organize conference. Dilip Mishra was the president. So there used to be this invitation, वो brochure होता था ना, जो post से जाया करता था. And इससे पहले, for the last 4 years, each time there used to be my name. This time I changed it to my intern's name, Vikrant Parida, हमारा वो करता था. तो Dilip instantly called from you, part of Lex, तो phone आया, बहुत बढ़िया brochure है and all that. और ये विक्रांत कौन है? तो मैंने कहा मेरा ट्रेनी है. He will get some opportunity to interact and थोड़ा उसको अच्छा लगेगा. Get to know मेरा नाम है. And it goes to 1,000 people. He said कि एक काम करो अमन, वो कोऑर्डिनेशन तो वही करने वाला है, नाम आपका डालो. तो मैंने कहा क्या फर्क पड़ता है? So then he said कि अमन आपको पता नहीं है, लोग आपके नाम से आते हैं. आपका खुद का जो ब्रांड है ना वो इस्तेमाल करो, because NHRD is still not known in Pune. So I would suggest put your name, and because when there is authenticity in your name and you are more known, so if I may take the liberty of saying, I was known before NHRD. So but then I realized कि यार ऐसा भी कुछ होता है, and that's how the journey started, and I will share more when he throws questions.
Shilpa, coming to you now. How did you become what you are? Take us through your journey.
Yeah. I don't know. Hi. So thanks Advait for calling me. I still don't know why I'm here.
This is the fourth time I'm hearing, so.
Yeah, we've had this conversation several times, and in fact, a couple of people who know me, who I'm related to, called and said, we are sorry. I said, okay, don't come. Because the last thing I want is to go home and then people call me and said, and then it was such a waste. You already got a chance to speak, and whatever you spoke was pretty much what we were at home. So, thanks Advait for giving me this opportunity. I can flaunt this one at home later. I don't know what you mean by my journey, honestly, because when now that, it all makes sense now, but when I started writing, I started with Facebook, and I used to run a Shilpa Godbole page, which was illustrations by me, and then my observational humor around the situation. And that got noticed, and I didn't even know it was personal brand or whatever, it was just a hobby. Personalized illustrations, I used to call it. And then my then boss, unfortunately is not here anymore, he happened to notice it. And I was hired at Apace like that. So I'm a live example of how personal branding opens opportunities to do things that you never thought you probably would, or you are vying for and eventually got that opportunity. That's how my journey with Apace started, as they were looking for somebody to write content for a cycling and triathlon brand. I knew nothing about it that time. I was just about starting to run. And then, given that, when I started working for the brand and eventually started doing more than just generating content, looking at how to elevate the brand and how to position the brand and how to do things better, how to be honest with your customers, and so on and so forth. I also started dabbling in my own observations on Twitter. People were writing long blogs about what was happening in their life, and I thought that here is this opportunity to write something that I have experienced in a funny way and into 80 characters. How cool is that? And that quickly caught on, because what I was saying was something that everybody, or rather mothers or parents, were feeling too, and I happened to give it a funny kind of, like in lighter vein kind of thing, and oh, I see a familiar face, Ram, you made it. So, yeah, so that's how I started writing, and people started liking it, and here I am today. He's saying that I am popular and all that, but I'll tell you one thing, I will think I'm popular if Sane Dairy lets me skip the lane in the line one day, or if my vegetable vendor gives me tomatoes or avocados at a discount. For me, that is popular. Popularity on Twitter means nothing to me, really.
Well, 0 to 12,000 followers is by no mean feat, so.
It's not 12,000. As my son will point out, it's less than 12,000. You can't round up.
I will round it off. Yeah, but this observation humor is the trait, but this Maharashtrian eye that I mentioned to you, was it a conscious choice?
No, it was not. It was never a conscious choice. It was never a conscious choice. It was something that okay, so self-deprecation is my style. I was a fat child, a fat teenager. The only way I could survive was to crack jokes on myself and be ahead of the game. Like before others can get a chance to crack a joke at you, you crack a joke at yourself, right? So, and that kind of changed later, and I realized that was not the place I wanted to be at after therapy and everything. But when I moved back to India, we were in the US for some time, and then when I moved back to India, I realized that for me to make this work, I had to make every situation funny. and I had to look at every situation in a funny way. Like for example, if I go about telling people now that there is really no point in marrying an engineer, because at the end of the day I have to still look for a plumber, I have to get a mechanic, and I have to get somebody to fix my the faucet that is not working in the kitchen. I could have, better to marry a CA. I keep tell my children better to marry a CA or a doctor. At least couple of things will be sorted out at home. This IT and all means nothing. So when I started sharing this on Twitter, I realized that it's not just me who's feeling that. There are so many out there who agree with it. And especially about my pestering, my obsession that my children have a bath every day. That is something that is truly unique to mothers, Desi mothers and more so Maharashtrian mothers. Like, we think so greatly of our children. If they get up on time, they make their bed and they have a bath. Like, after that they could even I don't want to say it, but do anything they want to. And they'll be pardoned. So I started sharing these things and they kind of quickly caught on. And here I am.
Interesting. I'll come back to that point. Excellent. Pallavi, one question, and when we thought of this topic, and we do end up discussing that topic internally in office in terms of what this topic means and how should we sort of curate the session. One thing that I wanted to ask you is that, in your mind, is there a difference between being a personal brand and being popular, or is it the same thing?
So I'm not a celebrity. So I see, for me, personal brand is all about building trust. It's all about how you connect one soul with the other person. That's it. And how, as he rightly mentioned, how authentic I am as a person. And that's why it is called, your image is inside out. The more transparent you are, the more connected you are, the more authentic you are, the more trusted you are. And it's always nice to keep things simple. It's nothing complicated in this. Because as you come across very clear and transparent. People trust you quickly. People love you for that transparency, and that makes things easier between relationships. So,
but can I be a personal brand and not be popular?
You can be popular too. It's your choice.
No, cannot be popular.
Cannot be popular. It's okay. See, it depends on your role. What are you doing? If I'm an actor, I'm a celebrity, I need to be popular because I need to get connected to people. If I'm in a role that requires me to be connected to people, I need to be there all over on social media or wherever the connects are. But if I'm not in that role, I'm okay being not popular, yet I will still have my personal brand. Another thing is, it has no, it can start on any time, like you mentioned. It's like wine. The older it gets, the better it is. So, it's not something that I have to start at a particular age. No, everyone. I personally believe that this is something that has, last 10 years. I remember when I started and I did my first image consulting certification, and I would say I'm an image consultant. People would ask me, "Are you a radiologist?" How do I explain this? So then, and I come from a professor's family, so my parents would ask me, "What is this?" And then, because we were brought up, I'm talking about dinosaur era again, but when we were brought up 5 minutes in front of the mirror and we would be whacked, because 5 minutes जाऊन पुस्तक वाच. What are you doing in front of the mirror? So it was that extreme. Now from there to here, I had a lot of myths that I had to break, but over the years I've just realized that everyone has had a personal brand. It's just that we're talking about it. To keep things very simple, it's when you talk about personal brand, is how much you can be trusted as a person.
Fair enough. Aman, like you said, you were a personal brand even before NHRDN. It was popular. How did both these things happen?
I would prefer to give a MPSC exam rather than answer this question. अभी जो आप कह रहे थे ना, तो ख्याल आया, popularity and personal brand in a way are similar, because people know you, but है distinction है. Popular होना, any actor, any gunda is also popular. मैं दिखता हूँ गुंडे जैसा पर हूँ नहीं, I keep telling people. And as you mentioned, कि be authentic, and I firmly believe in that and transparent. So I tell people that mostly girls that मैं खुली किताब हूँ, पढ़ लीजिए, कोई पढ़ता नहीं है, it's a separate matter. Having said, अभी मुझे ख्याल आया कि when I was in Ferguson College, by the way, I am a alumni of Ferguson as well as IMDR, so मेरे लिए बहुत गर्व की बात है कि मैं यहाँ बैठा हूँ. I was the
Actually, you are popular.
मैंने वो तो IMDR की वजह से ताली बजा रहा. I was the class representative for 2 years at Ferguson, and why I became popular because of that, and there were majority of them were girls. So, but that was popular, and my friends still say कि अरे Mr. Popular, Then as I graduated, got into management and got into NHRDN, तो ये personal branding होने लगा, and that happens with more of content, more authenticity, more being an expert in your field, So that's how. तो अगर मैंने कहा कि before NHRD I was known in the industry because my consultant and the services that I offered were of that level. That's how people got to know me. Popular तो कोई भी हो सकता है. अब मैं था ना.
So you can be popular without being a brand.
You can be a popular without being a brand, yeah. Which I was. मैं तो खोखला था यार, धक्का मार के पास होता था. So I had no content, I had no knowledge, but I was popular. But now, I may not be popular, but as she said, but I do, as people say, have brand, have people know me, and they know me because of my work, of the body of work that I have. तो उसकी वजह से फिर लोग जानने लगते हैं, तो you can say कि मैं popular है, but in a good sense. So,
Shilpa, your views on this is, just as a thought, is personal branding inside out and is popularity outside in?
Okay, you have to explain that question. What do you mean by that? Okay, we've heard a lot about, sorry to cut you.
Yeah.
We've heard a lot about from the author of the book, and of course these two, Aman and Pallavi, work in that field. I don't. Okay, mine is a happy coincidence that just happened to, get me to where I am. I got my job, and then my job happens to be in branding, and then I do my own thing. So it all works parallelly and beautifully. What I have noticed during this whole journey is what she said, is that you need to be authentic to your content. You have to be organic and you have to be authentic, because people see you through in the first 5 minutes if you're meeting them in person, and if it's over social media, then it is over few probably weeks or something. So if you know what you're going to be, you have to figure out what you're not going to be before that, so that you clear the lane for what you want to do. I can only speak for myself, I can't speak for others. I didn't start off with this want of building a brand. I didn't start off with this want of having followers. I just started off with sharing my experiences as somebody who's moved back to India, as somebody who sees life with a funny, with a lens that, lends humor to simple things that happen. And I could generate interest amongst the followers, and they kept on coming back and asking for more. That was when I knew that this is sticking, this is working, I am bringing value here. I am not trying to be what I am not. If I start giving wisdom and advice on first 10 things, that is to be a great mother, believe me, nobody cares, because everybody knows what they need to do as a mom.
Or every mom thinks that she's a great mom.
And of course every mom is a great person. I mean, that's the whole point of being a mom, that you're a great person. So yeah, so I don't give advice about being popular. You don't have to be popular to have a personal brand. Personal brand is something that you actively do to make your reputation work for you. Otherwise, reputation is something that people anyways are going to talk about you, whatever, she dresses like this, she's sarcastic and so on and so forth. People will talk about me like that. But this gives you an added ammunition to change what people think about you. You have the power of, creating content or portraying yourself in such a way that it doesn't have to be about showmanship, and it is unique to what qualities you bring to the table. So popularity is not equals to personal brand. Unfortunately, that's misunderstood.
I'll take that question with Pallavi.
I just have to add on to what you were saying is because when we got to know about the panelist, of course I knew him. But when I checked her page and I went through her stories, and when she walked in, I said, yes, of course. The reason is I could connect with her stories, I could connect with what she has written, because somewhere across she's come across as a very honest person, someone who, as she rightly put in, a very self-deprecating humor, which is the most difficult part of the entire humor, space. And when you read it, what has worked in her favor is the repeatability of her content. Every time she has written, every time it touched your heart, it clicked that, chord. Acha, okay, she's like me, she's wonderful, she's funny, she brings a lot of, my 5 minutes have gone very nice. That's the repeatability, that's the honesty, and I think that's the personal brand that comes across very, very authentic.
मैं कुछ बोलूं? एक ख्याल आ गया, and when we are talking about personal brand, honesty, trust, ये सब जो बोला वो बहुत ज़रूरी है. किस्सा सुनाता हूँ, या दो सुनाता हूँ. I've been into consulting field since 97-98 on my own. And consulting वो ज़माने में was the first thing that you do is provide job. तो recruitment भैया करो, तो मैं भी किया. There are a lot of candidates that I come across India. Okay, एक किस्सा उसमें से याद आ रहा है. There's this gentleman, he comes for our sessions also, by the way, Shah Siddiqui. He was in touch with me, wanted a job, and तो regular बात होती थी. I never met him. Okay, 20 years I never met him. मगर बात होती थी, सब कुछ होता था. Not only that, in 20 years, I never gave him an opportunity. एक भी नहीं, not one, single, 20 years. Okay? And we would always joke, अरे क्या साहब, इतना साल हो गए, एक इंटरव्यू तो दे दो. He was a senior executive and then he became head, of operations and marketing and all that. So I was very authentic in saying कि मैं कोशिश कर रहा हूँ. And I think that authenticity, translate even on the phone. कि भैया मैं कर रहा हूँ ना, तो don't doubt my intentions, don't doubt my efforts, but I'm doing it. I'm being unsuccessful, perfectly fine, but my efforts are there. तो and 20 साल के बाद भी अगर उनसे इस प्रकार की दोस्ती है, so why? It's because of the authenticity and the trust that he had on me that he is trying. It's one. Second, I meet a lot of people. अब यार मैं जो बादाम खाता हूँ वो डुप्लीकेट है, याद नहीं रहता है. अभी का किस्सा ले लो. ये भाई साहब जो यहाँ बैठे हैं, I met him में, तो अभी sorry यार, मेरी आदत है, अब हो गई है कि I will talk, and I'm thinking ये कौन है? I'm revealing secrets, but don't take it against me. तो इनके साथ भी ऐसा मैं बात कर रहा हूँ. And then it struck me कि यार ये तो गड़बड़ी हो गई, डेटाबेस में से मिल नहीं रहा है कि भाई साहब कौन है. So finally he said that he is from Sweden, and then it struck me. मगर then I apologized to him कि यार sorry यार, मैं भूल गया. मगर मजा है जो इनके बारे में मुझे और कुछ ना पता हो. That I remember, So I have no issues in accepting my mistakes. In saying कि यार तुम्हारा नाम मुझे याद नहीं, वहाँ पे एक कामले साहब है, उनको भी मैंने पूछा कि यार sorry आपका नाम क्या है? Now I remember. So being open, being upfront, and being coming across as an honest person matters a lot. And when you are dealing with a larger public,
I'll give you a trick which I do. Again, I'm revealing secrets. I first tell my name. Then hopefully the person also says we can try.
अरे पर वो तो तुमको जानता है ना, गले भी मिलेगा. तो गले मिलने वाले को कैसे बोलेगा मेरा नाम अमन है?
You are more luckier than me. Shilpa, coming back to you. You know, back to your tweets.
Yeah.
You have, when you write about your professional job,
Yeah.
it's a very professional, serious kind of
Yes.
thing. This is what you do otherwise.
Yes, yes.
Again, is that a conscious kind of
It
thing?
is a conscious decision because I made a lot of conscious decisions over a period of time. One is that when I talk about work, it will be not with the flavor of humor and Marathi English and all that, because obviously that's not what that brand has promised its stakeholders, right? Apace is a brand on its own and it has its own promises that need to be delivered. I also do not talk about religion. I do not give opinions on politics. I will make sure that some words are never used on my feed. So those are the conscious things I do. About tweeting on behalf of Apace, when I do it consciously again, that I don't repeat what I do on other social media handles, because again, you can't be doing the same thing on different social media platforms, right? Because every media platform has a different narrative that is associated with it. Like on Twitter, you need to be sharp and you need to be really short. On Instagram, you can go on and on and on and use 1,000 hashtags and they will help in a different way. And on Facebook, again, it's a different thing. On LinkedIn, again, it's a whole different genre, right? So obviously, it's a conscious effort to maintain that kind of distance.
Sure. And how does your own effort in terms of effort or not so effort in terms of developing your own personal brand versus you as head of marketing in a company and the branding part,
Yeah.
are they related?
Yes, completely. I mean, for me, they are related because they belong to the same book. They are just different pages. I learn a lot from the way I observe how we handle things at Apace, from brand elevation or brand positioning or just branding as far as that goes, because that's where I learn and I apply it on my personal page. That again, being honest is one of the things that comes up to my mind. Is that I'll just give you one example. When we decided what we will do with our content at Apace, we figured out what we won't do is we will never be dishonest. If we have goofed up, we will be the people who will first say that, boss, you know what, this hasn't worked out the way we thought we will. So this is a cycling, just to give you all a background, it's a cycling apparel, triathlon and cycling apparel brand. We manufacture sports clothes that are meant for these two sports, right? So we made a batch of bib shorts, which are required for cycling. And then what had happened, we realized was after they were tagged and they were put up on the website, and we realized that the design is not really matching on both sides of the panel. The panels were not matching. So we had a choice that we could, sell it in the back channels, or we could just, bear the loss. But then we came up with this, three of us together, we said, how about we just be honest? We went on to wherever the platforms that we use, the popular platforms, and we said that, listen guys, we goofed up. This is what has happened. We didn't mean for it to become like this, but it is what it is. And we will sell this product at 30% off. And the only thing is you can't ever return it, and sizes can't be exchanged. Within half the day, the product was sold, because there was this legacy that these people mean what they say, and if they say this is the only problem with the product, that is the only problem with the product.
This goes back to the trust part.
This goes back to the trust part. So whether it's a personal brand, whether it is you're working for a big brand, just owning to your mistake, and again, what the author of the book was saying, that putting your ears to the ground, listening to the feedback, knowing the pulse of whoever is your consumer, if it's a customer, if it is your follower, you need to know what they think about you with an open mind, and then correct wherever you can, and pivot wherever you can, because we are all here Apace is here to make business. I am on social media because obviously I love all this adulation that I get. So why not, if there is a way to make it work better, I will tweak that.
Sure. Pallavi, you did mention about wine, but and the age part, but there are enough and more young people here. So what would be your advice to them in terms of how and when they should start doing something about creating and nurturing their own personal brand?
Okay, as I said, there's no age to start a personal brand. You can start off as soon as a toddler, or you are whatever age. There are just 5 things that I would like to share with you. The first one is, and this is basically the way I have learned and by experience what is building up a personal brand. Right or wrong, I don't know, because everyone has a different take on it. But these are 5 things that have helped me, and I would really like to share them with you. The first thing is the 3 C's: clarity, constancy, consistency. So clarity is on who you are. So when we talk about clarity, the first thing that comes is acceptance and gratitude. Acceptance is to the way you are. We all come in different shapes, sizes, square, rectangle, inverted triangle, whatever. Not just accepting yourself physically, but also accepting the way you are and your journey of life. And celebrating it. So that is your acceptance, because every time I express gratitude every day, I'm thankful for what has happened to me. It just builds up that extra feather in your personal brand. So whenever we talk about personal brand or executive presence, it's the vibes that people feel. So when you walk into the room and people acknowledge your presence, it's the vibes that are felt by the other person. For that, I need to enjoy myself first, because then that is felt by the audience. Otherwise, it is like, oh, it creates a different aura. Second is appreciate yourself every day. Whether you stand in front of the mirror or whether you do it loudly, because that's the way you kind of build in that immense self-belief and confidence. So enjoy what you're doing. Second, the third is understand what your core values are, because core values don't change. Core values, as she rightly put in, is that even the author put in, is write down what you stand for. What does a Pallavi stand for? What does a Shilpa stand for? So what does an Advait stand for? So you just write down or think about what you stand for. Those core values which are non-negotiable. So maybe my core values are, they are empathy, passion and integrity. No matter what I am doing, I may be working, I may be a homemaker, I may be a mother, I may be a sister, I may be great. So if passion is one of my core values, then I am as passionate grating a coconut as I am doing financial numbers. What I am trying to say is your core values don't change. The other values may change, which means that it depends on what role you are doing. And obviously as a someone in a senior leadership, probably you have to be assertive, though you are empathetic. So you, instead of aggression, you are just assertive. So understand what your core values are, because they are who you are, again, as I come back to it. Always keep learning new things, because that adds versatility to your personal brand. It's not, so I remember taking a workshop in an IT industry, and I said, okay, introduce yourself. And one boy stood up and he said, okay, I'm Rahul, 2 years Java. 2 years Java? And he said, yeah, that's my introduction. I'm doing Java 2 years. And that's when it just struck me that when you talk about yourself, work is just a part of your life. Though we spend a lot of time in it, but ensure that you have a versatility in what you do. So all of us have our hobbies. Try to get it at least twice a week, so that when you are using social media, you are actually contributing, you're talking to people. There are multiple facets of your personality that you would like to do. So that's 4th, and the 5th one is when you are, this is where I always feel is that when it's developing your personal style. So when your personal style is in terms of dressing, in terms of the way you enjoy yourself, the way you bring your best in front of people. So never copy anyone. I cannot be like someone else. So tomorrow when I am doing personal branding, I will not be Aishwarya Rai Bachchan, but I will be the best version of Pallavi people would have ever seen. That is your personality.
change, sometimes the values change. So would that also mean, as an HR professional, or very good HR brand, people change, values change, with the brand change?
Okay, so before he answers, a brand needs to evolve, it can't be stagnant.
Okay.
मुझे बहुत शक हो रहा है कि पल्लवी ने मेरे दिमाग में चिप डाला है और मैं जो सोच रहा हूँ वो बोल रही है. Everything, ditto. Yes, it evolves, it changes, people change, circumstances change.
अभी बदल गया है.
हाँ.
So as people grow in their organizations, they become big bosses, they change. Would the personal brand also change in your way? What would be your advice as a very good HR brand?
If I'm talking about myself, and I said from my personal story, I'm still the same.
Okay.
चाहे मैं एक छोटा सा unknown consultant था, या एक कमिटी मेंबर था, या एक कार्यकर्ता था, if I'm talking about NHRD, या अभी प्रेसिडेंट हूँ, I am still the same बाबा. If anybody refuses to accept me as the same, हाथ उठाओ बोलो, मैं बदल गया हूँ. No, I'm still the same. I know it. But yes, having said that, ये थोड़ा ना हल्का सा पेचीदा मामला है, sensitive, because it deals with people, deals with human behavior, our circumstances, our psyche, the circumstances we are in. People do change, and I have seen them change, और बहुत ऐसा होता है जनरल के भैया पावर आ गया है भैया. What is detrimental in this when you are in a semi-public space or 3 alphabets E-G-O, अगर वो घुस गया, you are writing your suicide story. और वो होता है, we are human beings, and I have no issues in accepting my mistakes. Even I have undergone, कभी-कभी हो जाता है कि अरे लोग जब बोलने लगते हैं ना, जैसे कि अमन and NHRD are synonymous, I am the face of NHRD, or तो कभी-कभी बहक जाते हैं, बहक जाता हूँ, अरे I am. Then you have to go home and stand in the front of the mirror like Pallavi says के boss, hello, अपनी औकात में आ जाओ वापस. So ये होता है. If I am conscious, I am more aware, then it helps. So the next day I am a better version of myself, but I am still the same, minus the ego part, or
But my question is, many times we've seen that these personal brands, they are also a subject of what chair the person is occupying, and that becomes synonymous. And then when they retire, they realize that that personal brand has remained with the chair and not with the person. What happens then?
हम कुछ दिनों पहले ही बात कर रहे थे अरुण दत्त, सेम टॉपिक. You also have a chip in the mind or what? And होता है. And I was imagining that tomorrow if I retire from NHRD, not otherwise, तो मेरा होता कम हो जाएगा क्या? मेरी competencies कम हो जाएगी, मेरी हिंदी में बोलो तो लाइकी कम हो जाएगी क्या? मैं तो सेम हूँ. But yes, people will stop associating कि अरे ये तो प्रेसिडेंट है, अभी कोई नहीं है. That is normal mentality है वो. एक insecurity आ जाती है. Then people start thinking that NHRD is because of me or any organization. And in a way it is true. People make organizations. Apace जो है वो आपकी वजह से काफी होगा. But doesn't mean that if we go away from the organization will come down. No. तो did I answer or did I get confused? More or less confused. वो आदत है.
I just stopped at more or less.
He is very kind.
Okay, before I jump to other questions, anybody has any question? Yeah, 2 hands, yeah.
Good evening. My name is Captain Shantanu. I'm the Chief Planning Officer of Suzlon Energy. Thanks to my colleague Yashin, was associated with NHRD when Christian was the president some years back, and I'm new to Pune. I don't have a question, it's just an observation, and I think culture and brand is something that needs to be looked into. For example, if you tell somebody that from where are you, he says I'm from Goa. So you associated a brand of an inanimate place and percolate down into that person. till such time that person is on a pedestal that he becomes an Amitabh Bachchan, the brand by itself. But then you say ABCL, that brand doesn't click, right? Talking about your example of no to Siamese people, there was an experiment which was done when people had to mimic Charlie Chaplin. The original Charlie Chaplin came third in the look-alike competition. So I think culture, belief is something which is a very equally part of how you build a brand personally. Second, I have a different and a variant of opinion because at one point the author talks about shaving and Gandhi speaks about naked fakir. So you do not have a social media, you have a brand of Gandhism, you have a brand of Khadi. Khadi did not become successful the way it has to be, but Gandhi became successful as a marketing icon. So I think this entire stuff of brand, personal brand without socialism and social equity, my sense, will not cut ice. Because Robinson Crusoe cannot become a brand when nobody sees him. So there has to be a secondary person and a social system to be able to build a brand is what my take is. Nothing against the author. Thank you.
Just pass on the mic.
A question for Aman. So what should the business owners focus on more? Organization brand or personal brand? How do we distribute your time between the two?
एक और किस्सा सुनाता हूँ। चल रहा है? I don't like strings attached. जादू है मेरे बाजू में बैठ रहे ये जो बात है ना, way back in '98, okay, when I started Kabir Profile Solutions, consulting firm, and as I mentioned, I had taken a lot of interns, and Saket हमारे बहुत बड़े supporter हैं, and I would train them, and they would go back to the industry, and CV पे लिखते थे वो लोग, interned and trained at Kabir Profile Solutions, and nobody knew. तो सामने वाला मैनेजर जो होता था वो इंटरव्यू लेता था वगैरह वगैरह बात करते थे. अच्छा हाँ, पूरा होने के बाद पूछते थे ये कौन चलाता है कबीर प्रोफाइल सॉल्यूशन. सो दे वुड से अमन राजाबली. पहले बोलना था ना. सो देन दे वुड कम बैक एंड से सर कबीर को कोई नहीं जानता है, अमन को जानते हैं, तो यू स्टार्ट राइटिंग रन बाय योर व्हाटएवर अमन राजाबली. सो देयर वाज ऑलवेज अ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट एंड आई यूज्ड टू डिस्कस कि यार कबीर को कैसे बढ़ाया जाए. पीपल नो मी and why they know me, because I have friends, So I had always this conflict, how to do that, So then for years together I consciously started highlighting Kabir and reduce Aman. Magar wo nahi hua, So then I let it go, and now nobody knows Kabir Profile Solutions after so many years, तो अमन राजाबली ही चल रहा है. मगर अमन राजाबली क्यों चल रहा है? Is because of his personal competencies, his expertise, his content, his consistency. कि लगातार वो सर्विसेज दे रहा है, चाहे वो कबीर के नाम पे हो या अभी समीक्षा के नाम पे हो. I have another NGO, तो वो अगर if you are creating a balance between your organization and yourself, then yes. So at least in the consulting field or small enterprises होता है. तो if with my name कबीर को फायदा हो रहा है, so why not? That's how. For that matter, even when you asked about NHRD and what Dilip Mishra had said in those days, so I started using my personal brand to enhance NHRDs. And majority of the members that we have now, we are a membership based organization, have come through me because मैंने अगर उनको invite किया है. And then now NHRD is a national body and अमन छोटा हो गया है. So that you have to take a conscious effort in highlighting which one. Did I answer that or did I get confused?
I just have an additional question for you. Now, he is a business owner. His question, Vikrant's question was also a business owner. But you said, as a professional working in a company, what happens if I develop my own personal brand and somewhere there is it starts eclipsing the organization I'm working with?
I would put this way, I would put an and in between. It's not either or. When I'm syncing my, it's lucky if you get to work in an organization where your values, your interests sync in with the organization, because it creates a resonance. That's when I will put an and. And finally, if it's going to benefit the organization. See, if you ask me personally, I would put organization first. Anything that I would do, if it is going to benefit for the organization, yes, I would go ahead and do it because the organization is going to benefit out of it.
Sure. But Shilpa, I don't know whether it's a marketing issue or an HR issue. If a corporate professional brand becomes bigger than the organizational brand, as a marketing person, what would you recommend? Is that advisable or not?
Absolutely. The whole reason the brand is there is because of the organization, right? You have elevated it to a point where it's a conscious decision by the stakeholders to elevate the brand. It doesn't happen by coincidence or just like that, right? So if it does become bigger than the organization, I'm sure the organization finds ways to add on different entities and bring on board different entities to match with
the reason I'm asking is, since there are a lot of HR people here, and I don't want to take names, but there are enough and more HR stalwarts who are now become personal brands.
Yes.
And people are not sure which organization do they necessarily work with. So what happens then as a marketing person?
Well, everybody it's a niche that you have created for yourself, and eventually whichever lasts longer is the one that wins, right? So if HR heads have formed a personal brand that is bigger than the organization they work for, then I guess it is up to the audience to make up their mind which way they want to bend towards.
But if the organization starts feeling insecure, then there is an issue. And I've known people and organizations, actually management institutes, wherein the professor is more known than the institute, and then the institute starts developing insecurity, aisa kaisa ho gaya.
So Aman has a chip in my head. See, if you're the big boss, the brand and the organization, it's okay. I have a question for all three of you, all four of you. Is it okay to have a brand bigger than your boss?
I do. My brand is bigger than my boss. He is very smart. He is not here today. He says that kabhi bankruptcy ya koi problem aayega, so I'm going to say this one is more famous. Please take us first, because I have nothing to do. I have no personal brand. Ours is a small company, so I Chapter really doesn't. But they probably have.
My boss has a bigger brand than I do, so I'm safe there. I think how does it really matter as long as both are secure in your own personal space? So which means if I have a brand bigger than my boss and it is going to lead me into problems, then I should know where to tone it down and where to exhibit it.
See, fundamentally you need to de-brand yourself if you are a part
of किस्सा एक मिनट रुक जाओ वो बोला ना उन्होंने तो I don't have a boss, okay, because मैं तो खुद का हूँ, but I tell that my people are my bosses, but anyway that's a separate story. But being in hierarchy अगर देखा जाए, since we are talking about NHRD, so president होते हैं, vice president होते हैं, secretary, treasurer, committee member, and disclaimer to all my earlier committee members and the presidents. By and large, because of my prominence kaho, personality bolo, demeanor kaho, whatever, invariably people thought I am the president when I am not. I was not. you know. So मेरी अच्छी दोस्त है रिया, you know. So when I go to her, you know, साथ में जाते थे किसी को मिलने, so I used to introduce कि भाई ये रिया है और ये president है. See, you have to tell people that I am the president, otherwise they think you are the president. So था कभी मेरा हो जाता है, but then as you mentioned, you have to balance, you know. So obviously then I would take a back seat and yeah.
So one last question. Okay, two questions. You just shout it out. Okay.
Sorry, hi, my name is Rahul Gupta. I am a founder of executive coaching firm. Last 2 weeks has been very lucky for me. Okay, I met 3 people with great personal brand. Nathan SV, Chris Shankar, and Mr. Aman Rajabali. So all 3 presidents. Yeah? But my question is, see, we have been talking about social media, right? And last 5-10 years, I think, has been the age of social media. Question to the panel is, what about main media? See, when I read a Forbes and I see a CXO interview or article out there, it creates a great impact on my thinking about that person, right? The story. But we are too focused, I think, on the social media side. But can any one of you, throw some light on the main media side of personal brand building?
I'll just answer that question.
Yeah,
Thanks to her social media, she gets into main media also. Does that answer your question?
yeah, I mean, a little bit more would help.
Okay. No, I'm talking about you.
Okay, I don't think I've understood your question to begin with. What do you mean by main media? Do you mean print media?
Yeah, print media, even television, right?
But those are such limited avenues for people to get into, and you have to be really somebody to get an opportunity to be in the print media and in the television platform, right? Social media is so organic, you can just say not what you want to really, you have to think and say. But it is easy, and it's more popular now because it's more organic. Nobody has really vetted you, nobody has prepared you for those questions. The CEO is saying what Elon Musk is practically shooting off his hip every other day, and people find that very amusing and attractive about him. Had we only listened to his interviews, we would have never known about this side of his. So in fact, I feel social media has opened up a fantastic avenue for individuals and CEOs and everybody to put forth something without, there is no filter, there is no middle person, there is nobody waiting, there is nobody editing, whatever they say, and then they have to, celebrities or CEOs have to then watch what they say and stand up and basically do what they say they will. Like he's promised he's going to come to India, and I don't know if you follow Amit Paranspay on Twitter. He keeps reminding him that you have said you are coming. When are you coming? When are you coming? So I'm sure Musk will come one day.
Yeah, one final question, my lady. Yeah.
I'm so sorry if this is changing the course of the discussion that we are having today. So from what I've understood from all 4 of you is that when we are talking about personal brand, it is about a plethora of things that work together. But for a student, as a trend which is going on, students they feel that this is an approach of 1 + 1 = 2. That they feel if we do certain kind of certifications or go places, it will be easier for them. So I would like to ask this question to 4 of you: that do you have any suggestions for students who have who want to be at the places that you are probably doing?
Panelists are not
So I have spent about 20 years working with students, and basically those who are from campus to corporate, those final year students. And luckily my work today also involves youth to the tune of 1 lakh that we create every year. My only thing is, suggestion here is, even if you are a student, at that age of 18, 19, 20, 21, there are it's the same logic that applies at every age. You may not have an work experience of a lot, but you still have an experience of 21 years of your life. In how many different ways you can live your life? What are the things that you stand up for? What is your go-to skill? Why should people come to you? At that age of 20, 21, these things definitely will help you because it's a homogeneous, as in a crowd with a lot of opportunities, similar percentages, similar work experiences, similar college experiences. How do I stand out? One, I stand out in that entire homogeneous crowd. One, I stand out when I know what are my go-to skills. How are people going to have a recall value about me? So how do I build onto that recall value? How do I build up a versatile personality? How do I also project what I am doing? That is also important because having done a lot of things, as he rightly put it, if you don't have an audience, it is like talking to yourself about what you are. It's not, so what is your recall value in the minds of people? All this can be worked at any age. But only thing in this is you have to consistently do this over a period of years. It's not that I do it now because I've heard about personal branding, then I forget about it and then I'm like bored, but I do it again after 5 years. It does not work. It's that consistency that will help you build a recall value, and as you gain experiences, it just happens.
Yeah. Now, from what you said, and again, she does have a chip. तो मेरा किस्सा सुनाता हूँ. Okay, I was a student like you. आप IMDR के हैं?
I will be a student. Yes.
Welcome. So ये जो उन्होंने कहा ना, and now I had a plan to get in on my own right from day one, but I did work for about 2.5 years. It's been 98 से अभी तक कितने साल हुए?
बहुत साल.
हाँ. इतनी गिनती आती तो यार मैं. Not once have I ever had to do business development or a sales call or go to a company के भैया काम दीजिए. Not once. मुझे आता भी नहीं है. If you ask me to introduce myself and what work I fumble because I don't know. Because कभी ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ी. और ज़रूरत क्यों नहीं पड़ी? Because when I was student, the kind of friends that I had, okay, when I decided to get on my own, we had a general get together party हुई and बोला कि भैया अभी मैं शुरू हो रहा हूँ. The next day onwards, assignments started coming in because वो सब दोस्त थे college के, and that's how then I started building. So but there has been consistency and they knew कि ये आदमी जो है वो सच्चा है, honest है. वो हमको नीचे नहीं गिराएगा. अगर if we trust him, he will do anything and he will deliver, come what may. So I think that is what has stood me. And if you as a student want to create a brand, start working right from now. Develop those kind and be genuine about it. यार मतलब के लिए ना कुछ नहीं होता है. मुझे आता ही नहीं है. अगर मुझे मतलब से किसी से बात करनी हो ना, तो मुझे नहीं जमता है वो कि मेरा काम निकलेगा वहाँ से. इसीलिए मैं सिंगल हूँ क्योंकि मतलब से कोई लड़की से बात करूँ तो मुझे नहीं आता है. So that did I answer?
More or less.
I just wish to respond to what you said.
It's a little contrary in perspective to what has been said. It's no disrespect, but a little about myself. That I'm an architect by training, and I was practicing for many years. And then I went into academics, started School of Architecture, and now I'm in the corporate sector. Initially, yes, I wanted to have a brand because we wanted to be recognized, We wanted things to flow, but I never actually had to seek work always used to flow. And then later on, since the last 18 years I'm in this company, I decided that every day I want to feel alive. Because since we are born, death is certain, after that. And of course, taxes in between. So that every day I want to feel alive. Doesn't matter what it is because nobody here. One of the best things after moving from a practice to doing a job is at the end of the month you get your money. So I said this is fantastic. That means I can enjoy doing my work because that's what used to drive me. And that's what I did. I never bothered about building a brand. But then recently I just met a student of mine. 3 months I was in the EU. and he was doing his PhD there, and older than me, older than what I met him first, you know. So we were talking, and he said that how we used to perceive you, and how we perceive you now. So then so when this talk was going on, I was putting about 4 entities, different entities. One is a brand, one is the person behind the brand, the other one is the people who are perceiving the brand, and the fourth one is the context, you know, in which everything is played. None of these are constant. They're all the time changing, and there's always a little dichotomy. That dance will happen. Don't bother about your brand. Just enjoy and be intense. Find your meaning. Everything else will fall in place. That's the thing I would say to everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I keep on saying last, but definitely last.
2 quick ones actually, and on a lighter note. Shilpa, does your surname come in the way of sarcasm?
Does my surname come in?
Come in the way of the sarcasm?
Yes, it does. I use it. I use it to the fullest extent. My surname, my PIN code, I use it a lot.
And Aman, why don't you change the name of your firm to Aman Rajabali Professor?
ये सोचा था मैंने, मगर खैर उसकी तो कबीर की अलग हिस्ट्री है. But yes, I did think, you know, Aman Rajabali and Associates and all that. But that sounds very cliched. तो मुझे लगा यार हम हैं तो एक कंपनी की ब्रांड क्रिएट की जाए. But somehow it didn't happen. Of course, Kabir is known, but not as known as. अब मैं कैसे बोलूँ ना?
Chalo,
I have a habit of joking, so please don't. I'm a very humble person. So
we need to wrap it up here. But thank you, wonderful audience. So now from the panelists, as always I say, they entered an educational institute and they're going to walk away from a mall. Okay, so on behalf of all of us, since this is a book related kind of thing, this is of course a book.
पर्सनल ब्रांड क्रिएट करने से इमीडिएट फायदा नहीं होता है. 15 साल लगे यहाँ पे करने.
Thank you. As always, this is the Pune based perfumery of fragrance stories, so you keep on sending perfumes for the panelists, so thank you so much. Sanmat, this is from our IMDR, Professor Sanmat.
समझ नहीं होता है. इतर लगाने से क्या फायदा होगा? मजा तो जब है जब खुद के किरदार से खुशबू आए.
This is a new gift sponsor for us. We already have a long waiting list gracious venue host. I'm not going to say Aman. I'm going to say Arundhati and NHRDN. Thai Pune and Parag Gore and Business Cycle for being partners with us. This time you are not seeing this, although they are like with a lot of bags, but there is a digital gift partner also. People would have heard of a company called XOXOD. So I think by now 3 panelists would have got a gift voucher in your email boxes. So please acknowledge that as well and thank you. And I think our ex-panelist and ex-author, Amit wants to sort of give something to the panelists as well. So.
And a life member.
This is a leadership book that I wrote some time back, called The Elephant in the Dinner Table. So, some humor in it as well. So, proud stories. Thank you for such a beautiful conversation.
Thanks to Advait.
Thank you. The back. I benefit a lot from NHRD. An organic brand ambassador, exactly. Yeah, so thank you so much for spreading the good word about triggering some conversations which matter. Just some cerebral food that we get as a result of these conversations. And I'm sorry, I mean, do I have a permission to just talk for 2 more minutes?
Just one second, because thank people.
There's some more stuff.
So thank you once again for attending this session in large numbers, braving the rain, as they say. Our next session is on 18th of August. It's in Pavilion Mall, not in the mall, so not like this. But I mean, the panelists will still get that. But in the brick co-working space in the IT wing of Pavilion Mall. We are doing this book actually, which is Harish Bhatt's latest book called Office Secrets. Office Secrets, not Office Gossips. Don't come. So we'll have a discussion in terms of navigating corporate corridors. So hopefully we'll see more of you and all of you on 18th of August.
Thanks. I'll just take 2 more minutes. I know we are about to end the session now. And so essentially, when I wrote this book, the thought process was that I'll get some bit of awareness about education, because I'm talking a lot about why should you invest a lot in your learning, and why should you hire a coach and a mentor, learning from mistakes and so on and so forth. So one day I was feeling extremely sad and wrote that is my work really making an impact? And I'm just trying to draw some connections with the branding part. I didn't think it from that angle. And my wife was asking, Sujata was asking, so why are you so low? I said, I don't know, it's done well, but it's not really giving me the kind of feedback that I was expecting. The same evening, ladies and gentlemen, I received a LinkedIn. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. This lady who received a book from her boss as a New Year gift in January last year. Last year. And she finally read it in July of that year. Right. And that was one learning as a first-time author, that people will not respond to your big book immediately. So in the book there is a short story. There are 33 short stories of my experiential learning. So there was this lady, Mrs. Chandra, who was my next door neighbor, and her husband used to work for Bata India, and this is in Agra. There were a lot of financial challenges. I lost my dad at a very young age, and she became an incarnation of Ma Saraswati for me. So she was my live Siri, Googles, and she had access to Reader's Digest, National Geographic, all kinds of books. So there's a story around it. And this, the day when I was feeling very sad, so this lady who writes to me saying, I received your book from my boss. I just finished reading it. I work in an IT company, and I'm a widow. I have twin 11-year-old sons. Can you be Mrs. Chandra today? Can you be Mrs. Chandra today? The same evening, me and my wife Sujata, who's also my business partner, we took a call, a conscious decision, saying that, look, I am what I am because of so many Mrs. Chandra, so many mentors. So we took a decision that, every penny of this royalty of this book will go into the education of the underprivileged youth. Yeah. And since then, ladies and gentlemen, you've got these stalwarts talking about saying, put in your effort, put in your hard work. It takes a while. Ever since we announced that, my calendar has been busy. With utmost humbleness, I'm saying. So that's what education does to us. That's what books do to us. And can we have a round of applause for Advait and for and that's what it is. And Pune is a city of book lovers, and so wonderful. Thank you so much.
Give. I think in creating a personal brand, giving is more important. Giving is very difficult, it is challenging. तो जब लोग मुझे पूछते हैं कि आप यार इतना सब कैसे कर पाते हो, क्या करते हो, I give them time, which is most precious. That's what. So give. Everyone, if you
Very fulfilling. Very fulfilling. Give your gift of time. I mean, for youngsters, you may say, "Arey, bol rahe 20 saal ho gaye, 25 saal naukri kar raha, काम किया, they wait some money." Gift of time. Spend time with people, make them fall in love with books, with reading, or whatever talents you bring to the table. So that's also big. Thank you so much, Paul.